everyone. It is October 15, 2024. We are at the Howell Township Council regular meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
This meeting is being held in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice has been provided in the manner prescribed by law. This agenda is complete to the extent known, and formal action will be taken. I'll begin with the roll call. Councilwoman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Here.
Mayor Berger?
Here.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark, is there any reason to go into executive session?
Yes, Mayor, we have to talk about land acquisition.
Thank you. May I have a motion to go into exec?
A motion to go into executive session?
Second, please.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to open this meeting, October 15, 2024, the Howell Township Council regular meeting.
I'll begin.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
Roll call, please. May I have a motion to reconvene the meeting?
Motion. I'm sorry. Motion
Second?
to reconvene? Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
May I have a roll call?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Gager?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Here.
Mayor Berger?
Present.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remember, there is so much going on in the United States and in the world. Anybody who has been fallen for wrongdoing, we should pray for their souls and hope that some semblance starts with the whole world to make a change. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And to all of our local heroes, thank you all for what you do for this town. At this time, we have a proclamation. October is Substance Abuse Prevention Month. It'll be read by Gina Ribbon, the Howell Township Public School District Student Assistance Anti-Bullying Coordinator and Howell Alliance Chairperson. Matt, you wrote that.
Yes.
Please.
Gina is a partner of mine. I'm Krista Riddle, the Howell Alliance Coordinator, and I think sometimes I'm always the face of the Alliance, and probably everybody gets maybe sick of hearing me, I don't know. So I figured I collaborate with Gina constantly with her work in the pre-K to 8 school district, which is just tireless on her behalf. We have worked together for probably 12 years, 13 years, and so I figured I wanted her to introduce herself, maybe just share a couple of her Red Ribbon Week and Spirit Week events that you have for prevention, and then just to quickly read the proclamation.
Good evening. Across our district, we last week recognized Respect Week. Next week is School Violence Awareness Week and Red Ribbon Week. So throughout the district, we have different spirit days to bring awareness. Last week we wore blue for Bullying Prevention Month. And next week we have different types of spirit days depending on each building to recognize our school violence awareness and to Red Ribbon. I do know in both middle schools we'll be wearing red in honor of Red Ribbon Week. So for our proclamation tonight, October is Substance Abuse and Prevention and Bullying Prevention Month 2024, whereas any form of substance use, including nicotine, marijuana, alcohol, illicit drugs, synthetic drugs, and prescription medications, can permanently impact brain development, which occurs until at least the age of 25, and whereas parents remain the first line of defense against youth substance use, and whereas youth substance use increases the lifetime risk of substance use and mental health disorders, poor physical health, lowered career and financial achievement, and negative social consequences. And whereas Red Ribbon Week is observed in schools and communities nationwide October 23rd to the 31st each year to encourage substance use prevention and healthy decision-making. And whereas students who experience bullying are at an increased risk for depression, anxiety, self-esteem issues, illness, lower academic achievement, and troubled relationships. And whereas the Howell Alliance, Howell Township Public Schools, and Howell High School remain committed to providing substance use prevention and bullying prevention, education, awareness, and programs to foster well-being and health. Now, Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Township of Howell, on behalf of the governing body, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as National Substance Abuse and Bullying Prevention Month in Howell Township and commend its observance to all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the hard work and the dedication that you've provided to our students and our adults, but thank you both very much for the work that you're doing. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. At this time, I would like an acceptance of the minutes from October 1, 2024. May I have a motion?
Motion to accept minutes.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
I'm abstaining. I was not at the meeting.
Thank you.
At this time, do we have any reports from the officials at the dais?
Just a few quick remarks, Mayor. First, we have Fall Fest this weekend, October 19th, starts at 11 a.m. at Oakland Park. We are combining it with the former Farmingdale Car Show, so we're going to have a lot of vintage cars out there. We'll have band, food trucks, all the good stuff, so highly recommend that everybody come out. Tonight, if you haven't already and you're interested in signing up for the Halloween decorating contest, deadline's tonight, so you got to do that. Pickleball and basketball courts are underway at Oakland, so we are racing against the winter clock to make sure that we can get them painted. If not, they'll be painted in the spring, but construction is nearly complete. Virginia Drive, new basketball court was just put in. Hockey nets down at Deerwood Park will be installed shortly, and there's a new gazebo at Plumstead Park, so that is ready to go. Check my other list, and Soldier Memorial Rain Garden was installed this weekend, so Shade Tree and Lisa Dowd, another great job.
Thank you. Mr. Howard?
Just one quick update. We've actually gotten some complaints today over some activity at Adelphia Farms. This is the farm property across the street from Memorial and Adelphia School on Route 524. It's township owned. We have a lessee that leases out the property to farm. This was part of a Monmouth Chase development that we took over farm field. So instead of leaving it be, we've given it to a lessee to farm. Some of that farming activity just started this week. I think it involves the spreading of some manure, getting some complaints about odors, smells. Obviously, this is something the township's aware of. It is covered under the Township Right to Farm Ordinance. This activity specifically is part of your common farming practices that the Right to Farm Ordinance does cover. We're working with the owner of the neighbors, we're working with the farmer just to make sure that we can minimize impacts, but this is something that is ongoing and just should be short-term relatively. I think the lessee is getting ready for spring use for farming, so just wanted to give everyone that update, nothing else.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Nothing from me.
Diane?
Yes, I just want to announce that early voting is scheduled from October 26th to November 3rd at St. Veronica's Gym, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open the portion of the meeting for hearing of citizens.
Each person shall give their name and address to the clerk. The council should be addressed as a collective body and not as individual members. Each person shall have one turn to address the council, and comments shall not exceed a total of 5 minutes. Speakers shall be notified when their time has run, and no time extensions shall be permitted.
The only person that I have on the list right now is Ms. Taylor.
And Mayor, after Ms. Taylor, Ms. Kristen Daughter had come up, she wanted to sign. So after Ms. Taylor, I asked for Ms. Kristen Daughter.
Daughter?
Kristen daughter, Anna.
Oh, Anna.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sorry.
Your name and address, please?
Elaine Taylor, 1055 Maxim Southard Road, Howell, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Well, tonight, I just want to talk about farming. Being the chair of the Farmers Advisory, you know, I hear a lot of stories from all the farmers. Good stories, bad stories, happy stories, sad stories. And, you know, I just feel like I need to just talk. This is the time of year that all the crops are winding up or finishing, and of course this has to do with the ordinances. But I just feel that, you know, the farmers are not going to have a paycheck now. You know, they're not going to have any money until the spring. And it's really important that mayor and council and everyone get behind the farmers and help them to be able to get through the hard times. And so, you know, this year's been really rough for everyone because of the weather. It was so dry. And I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, we did okay. My well did go really low because we were producing a lot for the needy. And so, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only one. So, you know, it is a farming community. Whether we like it or not, it is. And we need your support. We need your support very badly. You have to remember.
May I?
Why don't, let's let her finish.
I just want to ask what support she's not receiving.
Okay, and then let her finish, and then we'll address, yeah.
Okay. So, you know, we've worked together with the mayor and council and professionals to try to come to an agreement, and it hasn't happened yet. And, you know, maybe this election will make a difference. I don't know. But something needs to be done to help the farmers. And it hasn't happened a lot because we can't accept what you're offering. And we feel it's not enough. It's just not enough. It's not enough for the farmers to be able to really earn the money that they need to earn doing the events, doing events. So, you know, like I said, we just need to work together more to make this happen and to make it better for the farmers. So, you know, myself and a lot of the farmers that are in Howell support Betty Velez Gimbel in all that she's done in her advocacy for farmers. And, you know, everything that she's done is ask questions and bring things to light. And we just feel that we need people like Betty in our community, working as a farmer and helping the other farmers. And at the last meeting, I mean, I felt like she was being attacked, and I just didn't think that that was fair. And so I needed to express that this evening and try to not let that happen in the future. So I just want to ask the public to please support our farms and to do everything in their power to purchase from them and, you know, just stick with us and do the best they can for the farmers and everyone in this room as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna.
Good evening. Anna, Christian's daughter, 11 Mouse Creek Court here in Howell. Thank you for your time. Firstly, I want to plug Howell Farmers United because Elaine was mentioning supporting our farms. Howell Farmers United was established just this past year. It's basically community-oriented to connect our farms to our community. So we allow our farms to throw up flyers, what they're doing, and it's just a great resource. And also, I hope, we have 1,000 listeners, right? Yeah. I want to plug free speech because, it's been a polarizing 8 years or so, maybe more, I don't know. But people really don't feel comfortable or confident with speaking their minds. And that's sad. It's sad for what we founded this country on. So, please, do what we can, lead by example. All of us are. I admire what you're all doing. I have to say that. I would never want to sit up there or there. I don't even want to be here. But I love free speech. So anyway, I'm going to read my little statement. Good evening, Mayor Berger, Council and Administration for Howell Township. Tonight, I address the council and township as a concerned citizen. We are nearly a year past the introduction of the collaborative efforts of the farming ordinances. At the last council meeting, there was a public review of the recollection of events on the ordinances. I see fit to add some of what was missed. I'm not sure I can add all of it. The proposed ordinances, as written this past November 2023, did not reflect the state's vision for sustainability of farming in New Jersey. We've been networking quite a bit with different boards, Monmouth Board of Agriculture, and so we are kind of getting more information on what's coming down the pipeline from their perspective too. And it is a collective agreement that we need to do more. We need to read deeper into what we're doing for our farms. We were working collaboratively with the administration for the farming community and making progress. The town walked away from all of this past May, June, give or take. The ordinances were not about special occasion events. They attempted to cover the vast diversity of our farming community. We need to work together to come back to the table in good faith and not repeat the same mistakes. Howell is in dire need of leadership that is untethered to any political party. I implore you all to be those people. At the last meeting, Betty took the brunt of the attacks for willingly engaging on tough topics, for putting herself out there for our farms and land preservation. I implore our community to research for themselves and to vote for the best representation for the farming community, for our whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. At this time, is there anyone else that would like to come up to speak?
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Bird. It's 501 Newton's Corner Road in Howell. This is very difficult for me to do, and I'm not sure I'm going to get through the whole thing, because this is somebody that's already lost her farm. And I'm advocating with these other farmers so that it doesn't happen to anybody else. I do stand by Betty because she is very well-spoken, and she's full of heart, and she's just doing whatever she can to advocate for all of us. So we believe that the ordinances that were written earlier this year would not have provided the relief that the farmers needed to remain economically viable. We were working with the township, we were collaborating, we were making some progress. The issue was that it was not about only the SOE, those new special occasion events. The town side was mixing in all the other normal farm activities that the farms have been engaging in for decades here in Howell, without any ordinances. But suddenly, the town is concerned about overseeing every aspect of the farming business, claiming it's safety reasons. Yet we question what safety issues were caused by any public injuries there was none reported. All of us carry farm insurance, which is the same as homeowners insurance, that protect themselves from any accidents that may occur. So we're all covered by insurances. There's never, 9 years I was involved here in this town, and never an accident, but paid large fees in insurances to be able to cover anybody that came onto my farm to do pick your own blueberries, to purchase produce, strawberries that I did in the season. We covered ourselves. I mean, we had a lot to lose. We had our farm to lose if we weren't being responsible. So of course, we're very responsible people. So suddenly, the viewpoint is that we're not allowed to do any activity that is not listed under an ordinance. Of course, all these new ordinances come with a hefty price tag for us. The fees that will be charged for the permission are very exorbitant. Myself, as a small farm scale, we were saying they were only going to allow us to have 30 people, which the fee for that would have been $85 per event. So, I mean, very simple math, that's almost $3 per person that would come to visit the farm would actually go to the township to pay that event fee, which is taking more. I mean, the whole purpose of this was to help us bring in additional income to help stay afloat. That's not doing it on that kind of a number. I mean, it's very basic math. The other option was we could pay $500 an annual fee. But remember, our season is very short, and there's no guarantee that the events that we would have would even produce enough income to cover that upfront fee. So we're putting $500 out of our pockets, and we don't know if we're even going to recoup that, not counting any of the other seeds and produce and everything else that we have to, put out. It was just not possible for us to come up with that kind of money up front. So the real issues, lies that we need some other kind of help. It's not, that's why it was said last meeting, I heard it on the video recording, that we're putting down everything that's being put out. Well, there's reasons why we're putting down the things that were suggested. It's because we can't possibly manage to cooperate with those. It's just not possible financially for us. So now, in addition, not only myself, but the town is taking farms to court. Mine was one. That's one of the reasons why it's gone now. They're saying that we're not zoned to be a school. I had a program with children. There was 2 moms that were homeschool mothers that put together a fabulous program for children. What they were doing was leasing a piece of my land, so I was only receiving a fraction of what they were bringing in. But what they were bringing in was to pay for all the animal supplies, all the feed for the animals, all the pens, the shelter,
Thank you, Rosemary. Your time has ended. Thank you.
I'll just close with that. That's a shame that children can't
Thank you.
learn farming skills.
Is there anyone else that wants to?
So Teresa Reed, 89 Howell Road. So tonight, it's really just all about the ordinances. That's our main focus as farmers. At the last council meeting, I wasn't here, but I was able to listen to the audio. And definitely a little disappointed because there were a lot of questions asked, and they were asked for Matt and Joe. And that's, get everything clarified. But There was nobody that sat down with the farmers or asked them the other side to the story. It honestly, just listening to it made the farmers, including Betty, it made us look difficult and that we didn't want to agree or work with the town when that's not the case at all. We have all been trying to figure out how to come to a mutual agreement. Town administration, it's not their job to be a farmer. They don't know what it takes and the costs that we go through. And, you know, there is a misunderstanding. And I know I spoke with someone from the SADC, and they said, when you want to hold these special events or these workshops, it is supplemental income because, like Elaine said, there's no winter income. So when you shut down your farm November, December, you still have a mortgage, you still have gas, you still have visa, payroll, everything's still coming in. How are you covering those costs? And there are some people here who know exactly what that is all about. So we do need these, whether you consider them special events, workshops, Girl Scout trips, you know, whatever we're doing, but it's always about supplementing the income. But no one sat down with the farmers and said, you know, why aren't you agreeing to these ordinances? And I will give you a little bit of an idea why. And it's because the ordinances are not spelled out. They're general, they're vague, and I don't know if I agree to them what it would cost me to go before the planning board, what it would cost me. Do I have to do a site plan by an engineer, or can we sketch it? And the way the ordinances are written, they give the town, honestly, complete control. Like, you know, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's Nazi Germany here. They'll be able to shut us down at any point in time. Oh, we don't like this. Oh, we counted 2 people over. Like, they'll have complete authority over our events and our farm. And, you know, we just can't agree to that. I'm an intelligent person. I'm not going to agree and go, yeah, carte blanche, whatever it costs me. It's why I didn't go for a use variance. Who's got $25,000 for a maybe? And I know I spoke with one of the town council members about the zoning board issue I had, that they would stop me from building my house if I had one more event. So, you know, it was a threat. And you go get a use variance, and literally it's on the tape. You can spend the money, get a lawyer, and we can still turn you down. Or better yet, we can give you a whole list of criteria to make it unaffordable that you would have to do in order for us to approve. I mean, there's another farm, we all know the farm in Howell, that's in it for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're nowhere near getting approval. I can't take that risk. I mean, I'm 62. I'm not in it for, you know, the rest of, you know, I'm not 30, going to do it for the rest of my life. But I do want to be able to maintain this farm for the next, I don't know, 15 years. I just think that we should be able to work together and sit down and ask the questions. What does it take? How do we get in the middle? What's going to make township administration comfortable? What's going to make it okay for the farms so they don't have to, you know, go get another loan to make it happen? And I'm just hoping that we can get to that point and do it peacefully in a very respectful manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and I am going to say that as far as Betty is concerned, she is #1 and the reason why we all still have some hope. If it wasn't for her, I don't know where any of us would be at this point.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come up?
Leslie Chalier, 22 McGill Road. I'm not a good public speaker, but I just wrote some quick notes down today on my lunch break. So good evening. I've lived in Howell for 5 years now. I'm the secretary of the Farmers Advisory Committee and the Preservation Task Force. I joined these groups to get involved with the Farming Committee of Howell while I have met great like-minded individuals and learned about farming and proposed land use in Howell and Farmingdale. I'm sorry to say that I will not apply to be a participant after my term ends this year. While serving over the past 2 years, countless requests for warehouses, storefronts, and large commercial dwellings come to the Farmers Advisory Committee for review. The Farmers Advisory Committee group makes comments about preservation, saving open space, trees, environment, and I feel that our comments do not get the attention they need, rather just a formality of process and then filed. I have not heard in any planning or zoning meeting that the FAC comments are a factor in why development should be halted. These meetings are run by our chairperson, Elaine Taylor, who's in the audience tonight, and they're very efficient, and they are open to the public to come and attend and hear about the proposed plans. The comments mentioned during last month's council meeting are false, and it's very sad that this meeting platform was used to showcase false information instead of verbally shaming other individuals. Whether running for council or not, this is what members, if you all are condoning that, I don't support that as a resident of Howell. With knowledge and true commitment to the hard-working people of Howell and Farmingdale, and working people of Farmingdale, and will work together with current officials. My vote is with Betty Velez-Gamble. She's gone to bat countless of times for the farmers that sit in this room. I have a farm, however, it's an animal sanctuary. Betty goes to ag meetings, board meetings, planning meetings on her own time to educate herself and share facts with the citizens and residents of Howell and Farmingdale. I say all this to say that we need to come together and it's time for a change. That's what the survey says. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come up to speak? Being none, I'm going to close the public portion.
May I have a motion, please?
May I have a motion to close the public portion at this time?
Motion to close
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Is there anyone that would like to remove anything on the consent agenda to vote separately?
Excuse me, Mayor, public comments to be answered?
Oh, forgive me. Forgive me.
So I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I think I'm going to have to. Mayor, did you ever get an answer to your question? How the council's not supporting the farmers? I don't think you did. I think you
No,
got.
but in all fairness, I was told to back away.
No, but you asked a question. I don't think you got an answer. How is council not supporting the farmers?
Well, if we're going to do that, then I would ask that we allow her to come up and answer that question.
No, the question was posed to you. Right, and, okay, so if you want to do that, that's fine. My point is, 3 ordinances have been put forth by administration to council, and all 3 of them would have been voted on, I think, and approved. We could have had a year's worth of lessons to draw on. We could have had a year's worth of experience to draw on, so that maybe, even at this meeting, we could be enhancing those ordinances, supplementing them. I'll start off by also saying that we're in mediation on these ordinances. I'm not saying much. So I'm not speaking to the specifics of them.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. So before we were going to vote on the special occasion event ordinances, they were introduced, and then mediation was filed with the state by Ms. Reed. So there is a confidentiality provision attached to that, so we're not going to speak other than in the most general terms. And, you know, I'm not the attorney here anymore, but I'll caution Matt on that. But again, you know, if we're going to bandy words around like falsehoods or lack of accuracy, it certainly seems to be the order of the day, because the township has been working not just with the farmers, but with the state and the county as well, to make sure that what we're putting forth is consistent with state law and consistent with county ag board requirements. So I like the ground that we're standing on. And, you know, I'll let Matt turn to some of the more specifics.
So a comment was made that we can't do anything unless it's permitted by ordinance. That's what we're here for, right? That's why you have a zoning officer. That's why you have a Department of Community Development, to enforce our ordinances. So the answer, the point of, if it's not in the ordinance, it's not permitted, that's the law. That's the municipal land use law. That's what the ordinance says. That's what every ordinance in the state of New Jersey says. So this idea of well, if it's not in the ordinance, then we should just be able to do it. It doesn't ring true. That's not how it's done, and that's not how we can govern, because anybody else can also use that same argument. It's brought up about schools on farms. The person who spoke tonight filed a complaint on a farm about a school on a farm. That took us to take action. We went to court, and we won on court. We have another farm doing the same exact thing. The person who spoke filed the complaint. Remember that. So I don't know where the inaccuracies are and where it's looking like, trying to make it look like the administration or council isn't friendly. The complaint was acted on and filed by the resident. So going back, we have ordinances. If we're not going to follow them, nobody's going to follow them. Is that what we want? Do we want our planning boards to have oversight of commercial applications? Do we want our planning board and zoning board to be able to grant variances? Or do we want anybody to be able to do everything? So the answer of, the comment was made that we are not, that the township wants to go carte blanche and be able to do anything. No, the township wants to enforce their ordinances, whether it's the number of people attending, whether it's the setup for the attendance, whether it's a site plan set up for ingress and egress, lighting, noise. The township wants to be able to enforce those, yes. What the group of people that are looking for the ordinance are looking for is carte blanche on their side. We've sat in countless meetings and talked about the middle ground. And what the township is offering is clearly not enough. Understood. Heard loud and clear. Doesn't mean that we can or should increase that number or get rid of these regulations. It's not. That's not good planning. It's not good practice. You have something you want to say?
Yeah, so right now, and I've said this multiple times, and I'll say it again, and this isn't the town that sets this requirement. Right now, if anybody wants to do these events, by state law, they have to go for site plan approval or a use variance. We're trying to carve out an exception to that. We're trying to balance the safety of people who are driving on the roads at night, ingress, egress. We're trying to balance out the stormwater regulations, where you may have the disruption of enough land on a site to trigger stormwater regs. We have to think about all that. We can't just think about what's nice on the farms, what's good on the farms. We all know what's nice. We all know what's good. It's the devil's always in the details, and it's how do we get there? And so when we're putting up rational regulations that satisfy our obligations under state law and preserve health, safety, and welfare on the farms, and we're getting taken to task for it, well, right now, go for site plan approval, go for a use variance, because that's the only thing that's possible right now. We're working to carve out exceptions.
So we're also being criticized for starting to get involved in on-farm direct marketing. To some level, there's been your marketing before. It's correct. There's been farm stands here and there, limited, maybe pick your own operations. Only until we started looking at special events and started talking to the county and to the SADC did we start to realize the level of involvement and how closely tied special events are to on-farm direct marketing. Our most recent ordinances wanted to keep everything the same. We said we're going to deal with on-farm direct marketing later, but we're going to make sure that the farm stands and the farmers markets can go on. It was rejected by the farmers. That wasn't right. So we were just trying to make it so that exactly what was going on could continue to go on. Let's be honest. We're all on Facebook. We're all on social media. We see things. The amount of on-farm direct marketing, the size of the events, the amount of people wanting to do this, it's massive. So that's great for Howell because we can get in on that. We can start being the destinations. We can have these awesome places instead of going up Route 34 to pick your pumpkins. We could do it in Howell. It's great, but there's an oversight process to it. Route 34 has several of these sites approved the right to farm. They went to the county. They got approval. They didn't even go through the township. Now it sounds like you have to go through the township based on the county rules. They didn't just get to show up one day, build massive structures, and do these things. There was an approval process. That's all we're proposing to do here. So on-farm direct marketing gets tied in because they're very closely related. And as it turns out, municipal oversight is required. We've talked to the county, we've talked to the state, and guess what? County absolutely says, Howell, exactly how you're going about this is exactly the way you should. Right to farm approval is not automatic. It is not guaranteed. You have to be covered specifically by the County Ag Board first. You have to get an A&P approval. And just last year, the county said, we're not doing that unless the town goes first. So township, you have to do site plan approval, use variance approval. If you deny them or there's conditions that they don't like, they can come then to the right to farm. Doesn't happen right to the county. Doesn't happen automatically. The SADC has confirmed that, and the county has confirmed that. Makes it sound like when you hear some people come up and talk that the township's not doing their homework. Township tried to pass ordinances that were not overly specific, that were overly broad to give some flexibility. And they were rejected. Fine, we dug in. So now we learned some more. Second set of ordinances come up, same idea, not good enough. So we try for the third. And yes, on-farm direct marketing, because we got exposed to more of the regulations, because we get to understand it more, comes into play. That's not even on the table anymore until we sort out the special events. But it's not fair for this council to make it look like that you're not being supportive, because you are.
Yeah, that's been the marching orders, and I'll correct the record. Council has made it very clear that they want these ordinances, but they want them that's done in a manner that's consistent with our duty to everybody in town. So that's where we are right now. We'll continue to keep working. We have another mediation coming up scheduled for the special event ordinances, so depending on how that goes, we may be in a position to pass them before the end of the year, and then we will turn to the on-farm direct marketing events, because there are some things that are permitted under state law that we are going to have to take a little bit more of a scrutiny. We're going to have to give it a little bit more scrutiny to make sure it's something that we're comfortable with in town, as opposed to, you know, having a more vigorous sort of approval for these particular things. So there's a lot of lifting left to do with that.
Joe, Matt Caitlin, I have a question. I'm going to guess it was at least a year ago that, I don't know who else came. I know you and I came when Sue came. We had a meeting in here where we talked about all of this. And after that meeting, I know we talked and we told you that we need to get this moving. So the whole doesn't care thing, it's not correct. But we did also tell you, just like you stated, try to give them as much as you can, but don't put the town at risk. Don't violate any laws, any regulations. And I know that all of us have constantly been in touch with you, asking you questions about where are we with all of this. And as far as I knew, that all of you have been meeting with a group of people who represented the farmers, and some of us have gone to those meetings, and you would report back to us and say, well, this one didn't go so well, but now we're going to do this and we're going to offer this. And the last that I had heard about all this was that things had gone pretty well. And then I sit here tonight and I hear all this. So where did all this come from? Or did they not go well? Or is we blindsided tonight?
No, we had the special occasion event ordinances ready to go. We had them introduced, and then between introduction and the meeting where they were to be approved, there was a mediation request made to the State Agricultural Development Committee by Reed Sod Farm. So that shut down everything, because we're not going to pass ordinances that are being challenged. And that's where we are right now. We are working to try and create a more streamlined site plan approval process so that there is less cost, less red tape, but still maximum protection for citizens. So that's where we are. We're working with our professionals right now. We've talked to Ron Cacharo, we've talked to Jen Beam. We're going to talk to some of our other professionals to see just how much more we can cut out of our site plan process. Excuse me. But at some point, there has to be some sort of process in place. We can't just say, have at it, and we'll figure it out in real time.
But to echo that, we are still in mediation, so beyond what Joe has said, we really can't say anything else until that mediation has
May
concluded.
I? May I? Is that okay? Because I think we're all frustrated up here, because and I appreciate Mayor's reaction too, we are all in total support, to reiterate Councilman Gazer's comments and the administration, total support. I was actually privy to a huge meeting we had right in here with a lot of the representatives from the farmers group. And I was in awe that the township would actually collaborate at such lengths with the citizens, because my understanding was that didn't necessarily even have to happen. So the collaboration has been ongoing. And please correct me if I'm not, I'm new at this, obviously, even especially with the farming, but this is all new territory for everybody on a state level. And at this point, almost a year ago, we could have considered it a pilot program. We had a starting point. And I remember Mr. Howard specifically saying, we can start with this number. Everything goes smoothly. We'll look at it again. We'll increase the number. But because of the pushback, here we are almost a year later. We're all frustrated. They're frustrated. We're frustrated. And ironically, we all want the same thing. We're constantly fighting government overreach. We don't want that either. We don't want all the red tape, but we have to follow the law. So I'm hearing frustration from both sides, but I appreciate the clarification from the professionals and from our governing body here, because it's more complicated than just, have an event, have a party, sell your produce. It's just not that simple. Homeschooling, we're for homeschooling. We've talked about that privately. We've had this discussion, but it has to be done correctly. It has to be done legally. So it's a shame, bottom line, what I want to say, it's a shame because from our point of view, from our standpoint, we could have had something in place, whether you want to call it a pilot program, a starting point, and here we are, we have nothing.
Well,
It's a
I'm
shame.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's one other, aspect to it as well. Eagle Oaks also put kind of a bit of a wedge into this as well. So.
Yeah, which is a business owner expressing concern about unfair competition, unfair processes within the township. Whether we like what they had to say or not, it held value, it was relevant, and it's something that may still come up in these ordinances. We don't have anything that's passed. We don't have an appeal period that's gone through. We're trying to carve something out, as Manager Clark said from the beginning. We're trying to carve something out from nothing. We are trying to create an exception. There is no question that we are trying to loosen the red tape where red tape exists for others.
So
there's going to be a challenge potentially.
Other towns in the state have to be facing or reviewing or looking at similar
We've spoken to surrounding towns, and a lot of them are issuing summonses for weddings being held on farms because they have no ordinance in place, because the county and state are saying that's the process.
Okay.
And the few towns that do have some, we've looked at their ordinances. Some are more strict. Some have a 10-day period before an event that a resident can come to the council and complain and put a halt to the event. So there's some aspects that are not really going to work for Howell. We haven't used those. We've looked at those other ordinances and we brought some things in. But these are also towns maybe with 4,500 people and
Right.
3 times the size.
Gotcha.
So there are hard consistencies to make, and we've taken what we can. We think we've come up with an ordinance that would be modeled by many other towns if it passed and we can prove that it works, which I think it would.
Joe, you
So-
going to say something?
Thank you.
So, one last, our voices here, we've been pretty consistent with this. I do feel like a broken record. We can bring Jen Beam. We can bring Ron Cachero to the next council meeting, and we can get the professionals' take on this. We have on our planning board, Jen Beam, who is one of the best planners in the state, and Ron Cachero, who is one of, if not the best land use attorney in the state. Do you want to hear it directly from them? We'll bring them.
We've had this conversation when you first showed those ordinances to us, and I looked at them, and I said, I think you went too far. I think you're giving too much, because I think you're putting the town at risk. And what happened immediately, Eagle Oaks, right? Which we didn't expect that from them, but we expected something different than that, but we had opened ourselves up for that. And of course, that whole Eagle Oaks thing was completely misrepresented. And you went to our professionals, and what did they tell you? If Eagle Oaks takes us to court, what's going to happen? We're going to lose, all right, based upon the ordinance that we have. And I'll tell you, I'll go back on the record today, try to give the farmers everything that they can, but it's not going to be, you're going to do whatever you want, and that's it. And that's the way it's going to be. We're going to follow the law, we're going to follow the regulations. We don't make this up. We go to the people who know and we ask them. If there's a question, what about this, what about that? They come back to us and they tell us where we would stand legally. So, I mean, that's my take on it. I just don't understand how we had all those meetings and it seemed like everything was going along nice. And now I'm sitting here listening to people tell me how we're taking money out of their pocket because we haven't helped them at all.
And we don't know if we'll ever get there unless we remove the regulations altogether. So at this point, we're in mediation. I don't think it's a bad idea for council to consider taking action on the ordinances and passing them. Maybe in spite of everything, we talk about reviewing those ordinances again and decide if you want to pass them. And let's get real world experience, because we're not moving forward all that quickly anyway. We'd like to be, and we're still working and we'll continue to work, but maybe we should look at those.
Is there any resolution in sight on the arbitration case?
So we can't speak into too much specifics on that. We're still meeting with our professionals, and we hope to be back in mediation in the next week or two, and we'll see.
But that really has no bearing on what we do anyway.
It does and it doesn't. I mean, it's a challenge to the ordinances, so it may inform, something that we're looking to do. But yeah.
And I'm sure Caitlin will disagree with
I don't necessarily recommend moving
spoke.
forward on any ordinances that are being currently challenged until those resolutions have been concluded, because we want to make sure that we're moving forward on a basis that we won't be challenged, because if we move forward expecting a challenge, all we're really doing is endangering people's tax dollars with a legal battle, and nobody wants that. We want to put forth ordinances that aren't going to be challenged and that will help the farmers.
I speak out of frustration because I've been at this for over a year or two. I've been the one drafting 3 ordinances. I've been the one meeting with SADC, as has Caitlin and Joe. It's out of frustration. We've done more on these ordinances than I think we've ever, in my 8 years, have done on any other ordinance, and that includes massive master plan changes and zoning changes. So I think we've put in our effort. I would take your legal guidance over what I say in terms of acting on ordinances, but it just shows you where we're at.
Okay. Have we responded to all questions? Yes. Okay, we're at the consent agenda. At this time, does anybody want to pull anything out to vote on it independently? No? May I have a motion for Resolution R24-368 through 24-378? May I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept Resolution R24-368 through and including R24-378.
May I have a second?
Second. Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
After we vote, yeah. After we vote. You don't want to vote? Do you want to pull it out, something out?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment on one of the resolutions.
So pull it out.
Okay. Then
Which
I-
one?
24-378.
Okay.
I'll modify my motion to approve Resolution R24-368 through and including R24-377.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. Those consent resolutions pass.
May I have a motion for R-24-378?
I'll make the motion to move same resolution.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Okay. Yeah, the discussion that I have is that I still would like to make sure that administration is fully aware that and I think, well, I won't speak for anybody else, but as much as we can do in terms of keeping this warehouse out, I still would like to continue that to the fullest extent that administration feels that they can follow at this point in time.
Understood. That's the goal, that's what we're working towards. It's a non-binding letter of intent. We're going to keep talking to them, and when or if we get to a deal that we think is the best for the township, then we'll put something on where there's an approval. But right now, this is the first part of the continuation, so absolutely.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve R-24?
There is a motion on the table.
Sorry, forgive.
That's okay. All right, I'm going to do a roll call.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fisher? Yes. Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
We have unfinished business. 024-40, capital ordinance providing for recreation improvements to Oakland Park and appropriating $330,000. Therefore, you're missing an E. Therefore, authorized in and by the Township of Howell in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey. I would like to open this for public discussion. Seeing none, I would like a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt ordinance 24-40.
Second?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
Ordinance 24-41, ordinance of the Township of Howell, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 178 of the Township Code entitled Housing Code Rental Property. I'd like to open this for public discussion.
Good evening, Mark Parisi, 2 Castle Court. I just wanted to say that it's nice to see that, that there are some proactive steps being taken to address some of the rental over occupancy issues that are going on in town, because having spoken with a lot of people in the community, it's a concern. And I imagine that this ordinance is intended to address some of that. My question tonight is, maybe the administration could do this. Could you just kind of walk through an example for the public to understand, like, how this ordinance, like, when implemented, like, you guys receive a complaint, and you go out and you investigate, or you pull documents. Can you just maybe just give a little clarity as, like, how this ordinance will operate in real time? Thanks, Matt. I'm going to sit down.
Do you want me to take it, or?
So we do know over occupancy, we know our rentals are a major issue. It's a major quality of life issue. The council's done not just this ordinance, this is probably about the 10th in the last 2 years. We started with increasing the fines, setting the maximum occupancy first by state law, revoking or doing revocation ordinances, really tightening our grip on rentals. We've also instituted an annual inspection as opposed to just change of ownership and tenancy, and that's a big one that plays into this. So within the next year, just like any other year, every single rental is going to have to come in for their landlord registration, which is the annual requirement, always has been, but also a renewal for your rental cert. Gives us an opportunity to check the tenancy list again, because most often we have different people in, or a lot more people in. It also allows us to do an inspection. So when we receive those applications, we are going to pull the deed off Monmouth County's website and the mortgage. And within that document, almost every single mortgage will have an occupancy clause. And it'll say owner must occupy the house for a year, 2 years, it may vary, but usually it's 1 year. And if you're going to rent, you need written approval from the mortgage company. Some houses won't have mortgages, won't apply. Some houses may be being purchased as a rental, and then that occupancy clause will read something different. But if it has that clause that says that you have to live in that house, we are going to, before we process your application, ask for that written documentation. And if we don't get it, you don't get a rental cert, and you can't occupy that house. If there's a rental already in place, we're going to be asking for it, and we're going to start talking about what has to be done if you can't get that letter. Because the idea is that that occupancy clause means something, and the township's going to use that and make sure that mortgage companies also know what's going on in these houses.
How would the mortgage company view that?
So it depends. If you're buying a house, and I know when I bought my house, they asked me a lot of times, what am I using it for? Is it a second home? Is it a first home? Is it a rental? And if you lie, then I believe the mortgage company has a case for something. I'll let the lawyers speak to that, but we want to make sure that they're on notice.
Right, there's a very special word for it, it's fraud, so, yeah.
And a lot of these mortgage clauses that have that language about, you have to have residency in the property for a year are based on a mortgage that's given for a primary residence. So a lot of people seem to be getting mortgages for a primary residence and then are not using them for a primary residence. So it's just an additional layer of checks and balances here. So, if your mortgage company isn't allowing it, then we're not going to allow it either.
One last question, because we discussed this. There's a big difference to apply for a mortgage to live in and to one for a rental, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. It goes straight to the heart of the risk of the mortgage. So if you have 20 people, 20 renters living in, that's a very different situation than when it's your primary residence. So credit where credit is due. I will flag the deputy mayor as bringing this one to our attention. So I think this is going to be a very helpful ordinance. It's a primary rental clause. It tends to be boilerplate. If you check your own mortgage, it's usually somewhere around paragraph 6 or 8 or something. It'll be in there 9 times out of 10. And it says you'll be using it as your primary residence for at least a year. Or unless permission's granted by the lien holder. Spoiler alert, they probably don't like to do that too much for that very reason. It's a different risk that's assigned. So
any landlord can be proactive and get that letter, be in touch with your mortgage company, make sure that they're on board. But the idea is if the mortgage company has an issue with this, it's because you've made some statements that probably you're not following. So it's important that the mortgage company's on the same page. They'll be getting copies of violation letters if it gets to that point, and so that they know what's going on in their own houses as well.
And in addition, this ordinance doesn't only address the clauses in mortgages about the occupancy requirements, but it also requires proof of liability insurance. It's a state law now that landlords need to have certain amounts of liability insurance. It's $500,000. That as long as we require it as part of our ordinances and our rental application, it is a requirement for the landlords to have it. So it's consistent with state law, and it's just an additional factor to, if people are making this their business to rent out their homes, that they're doing it appropriately and safely.
Mr. Molino?
Steve Morlino, Peachstone Road, 38 years. In regard to this ordinance, in the 38 years I've lived here, I've seen more police activity on my street in the last year than in the 38 years I've been living in Howell. And that's because we have 2 rental properties owned by LLCs. I see at least 10 children coming out of each house getting on school buses every day. I see a multitude of families, people moving in, people moving out. Okay, I've talked to a few of these people. Very few of them speak English. The ones that do are renting rooms in houses. They have microwaves. They have all kinds of things in the room they rent, which the room, by the way, has been subdivided. Okay, 1 bedroom's been divided into 2 rooms. Okay, I don't know what we're doing with this ordinance. I have no faith that any mortgage company is going to follow up on these rental properties. There has to be more teeth in what we do that we can go in and inspect these properties. Now, I hear we're going to do an annual inspection. That's all well and good, okay? But what happens on the day of the inspection? How does that work? People come and people go. I own property in Jackson that I rent, okay? There's very stringent things I have to do in order to rent that property, okay? There's fines involved. There's all kinds of issues involved. There's annual inspections. There's CO inspections that are done, okay? I don't see any of that going on my street. So what I'm saying is we need to put some teeth behind this somehow so that the township code officials can go in and see what's going on. I don't know what our regulations call for, what the law allows, but I can tell you, we're seeing a digression in my community that's terrible. And when it keeps up, it looks like blockbusting. It looks like people are moving in, they hold parties, loud noises, all kinds of fireworks going off, okay, to disrupt the peace in the community. It's a quality of life issue, and we need to take some action to get it down to a point where we can enforce it. And I don't believe any mortgage company's got the capability to do that. So I'd like to hear something more than a mortgage company is going to respond, because they, quite frankly, once they get their cash, couldn't care less. And a lot of these people come in with a suitcase of money and put cash down. There is no mortgage company. And it's an LLC that they hide behind. Okay, so we need to take a look, get our legal people involved, and find out what we can do to improve the quality of life in this township, because it's quickly going downhill. Thank you.
Mr. Molino, did you witness those microwaves? Because
no, I haven't been in the house.
Well, you said that because
the tenant told me, the person living there who was smoking weed outside in his car told me about this. When the ambulances pulled up and 7 police cars pulled up, I asked him what was going on. He says, I don't know, I just ordered DoorDash. He says, I'm going to heat it up in my microwave in my room. So I don't know, I'm not the inspector.
So you don't know that that actually happens?
I'm telling you what he told me. Is it hearsay? Yeah.
Yeah. So
take it to the bank.
We couldn't issue a summons and subpoena you then?
Say what?
We couldn't issue them a summons and subpoena you because it's hearsay.
I understand that. It's not my job to do the inspection. It's not my job to regulate this. You were elected to do it.
You came up here and made an accusation. I asked you a question.
An accusation about what?
So an accusation that we're not doing the job. So
you're not doing the job.
Really?
When 7 cop cars got to show up at one house several times, you're not doing your job.
Give Matt the address and he'll send somebody over there.
Good. I talked to the police and I also talked to code officials. I'll give him the address again. Several addresses, by the way.
I'm happy to say one on Peachstone Drive has been revoked, so we're aware of the issues. They take time, they take multiple inspections, and I wish Mr. Morlino would schedule some time and maybe we could sit and talk for a little bit. And I wish maybe he attended some more meetings or listened, because I think everything he said is exactly what this council has done for the last 2 years. We've passed more stringent fines. We've passed annual inspections. We're getting in the units more. And we are revoking COs if there are repeat issues and nuisance issues. Exactly one on his street has been revoked. And we will be in court shortly enforcing that revocation if it is not fixed. So there's a lot that was said there that we're already doing.
I would also, can we just clarify that with this, we're not relying on the mortgage company to do anything.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. This point of this ordinance is all the mortgage fraud going on, it gives the township teeth to actually do something.
Right, you're not getting a CO without.
CO pulled.
And then if there's occupancy,
not giving you permission.
And if there's no CO and there's occupancy, we could take our next steps, and it escalates very quickly from that point forward. So we're not asking the mortgage companies to be an enforcer. We know that's not going to happen. We're counting on the bad players here to not be able to get the letter so that we can then issue our revocations and take the action we need to. We cannot go door to door into our rentals and within 2 hours' notice, go knock on the door and demand access.
Yeah, we can't.
And I don't think that's what Jackson's doing. So we have a 24 to 48-hour clause, and we use that multiple times a week where we put the manager or the tenant on notice, and we show up in 24 hours, and we do our inspection, and we get access. I guarantee you no other town is doing it quicker than that. And if they are, they probably have their own issues. Microwave, and Mr. Gazer, you hit it on it perfectly. Hearsay. We all know what we know. We can look at properties. We can make judgments, we can make assumptions, and they're just that until code enforcement can prove it. And again, absolutely right. We say we're coming in 24 hours. Guess what happens the day before? we're coming for an annual inspection next week. Guess what happens? My inspectors are getting very good at finding the signs of construction work having taken place, and the signs of construction work having been removed. We were just at PD this morning, Manager Clark and myself, giving a presentation to our police department and continually communicating with our police department to say, when you see something, let us know. When you see something, put it in your report and tell us so that we can grab your police report the next day, and then we can give them a 24-hour notice, and we can take action. We've done all of this and more. It's a slow process. We get a complaint filed. It takes us weeks to get out. It takes us a day to get out and inspect. It takes 2 weeks for a violation to get corrected. It takes 3 weeks for a violation turned summons to get into court. It takes multiple summons to do a revocation. I know that it goes 2 weeks and the residents say, look, nothing's being done. Code enforcement's not doing anything. We are, but we have to follow a process to make sure that when we get to the end, we can do something as forceful as a revocation. And that's exactly what we're doing. But if we're going to take every complaint and say there's microwaves in subdivided rooms because somebody told me and somebody told me and somebody told me, judge is going to laugh us out and none of our cases are going to move forward. So we need our proof. We go about getting it the right way, and we're not going to put our officials at risk or myself or my code inspectors by doing it the wrong way.
May I? Mr. Howard, I'd also like to remind the public that the policies coming out of Trenton have us tied. I asked 2 years ago, I believe, when we first started, my first question was, can we raise the fines?
$2,000 maximum.
Not allowed. Trenton said, no, we can't do that. So, again, we've been saying this is our number one issue in Howell, and we're all dealing with it.
The big desire, I could tell from the residents, is that we want our single-family zoning to be intact. Right now, there's ADU, accessory dwelling unit legislation pending at the state. Don't know if it's going to move forward or not. It's at risk of potentially permitting, as of right, apartments in houses and your shed turning into a living unit, a dwelling unit. This legislation's pending. It might be coming. I mean, some of these laws are very difficult to work around, and single-family zoning does not exist anymore. I have to be able to prove that something is being used as a boarding house or a multifamily dwelling. And that doesn't mean that there's 2 last names living at a house or 4 last names living at a house. I have to go well beyond that to prove it, and it's not easy. And what we know is not what we can prove.
Yeah, just to key off that, it's an uphill battle, and nobody wants to hear it. There's constitutional implications, due process implications. There's a lot of legal legwork that needs to be done. We can't kick open doors, grab people by the neck, and drag them out in the street. We have to go through proper channels and proper process, and that does take time.
Can I make a motion?
Please.
Okay. Motion to adopt ordinance 24-41.
Motion to close public comment.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Motion to end public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now I make a motion to adopt ordinance 24-41.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Can we have a discussion on this? Just wanted, just to follow up while we're open. Matt, at the next meeting, would you be able to provide us with the numbers of how many rental COs are on notice for revocation?
Yep.
How many have been revoked?
Yep.
Generally, and with regard to this specific ordinance as well?
Yes, I can give you an update right now in terms of, we have 6 properties that the rental rights have been revoked for over a year. None have even been appealed through the ordinance to myself as the Director of Community Development. So those are active. Again, we are taking the next steps and trying to make sure that that revocation is valid and that the property is not being occupied. That takes additional steps. So just us writing the letter and taking it away doesn't mean anything. We're planning on going into court. We probably have 40 to 50 other notices out saying you have 30 days to comply or you're going to have your rights revoked. We're ready to go into court on every single one of those if necessary. And so either one way or the other, we're going to get compliance on 40 to 50 properties, 30 to 50 properties in the next month, or we're going to be revoking that many. So I can give you an update next meeting as well.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call, Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to accept ordinance 24-42, ordinance authorizing traffic enforcement upon real property located at 90 Industrial Court in accordance with the request of the property owner. I'd like to open this for public discussion. Seeing none, I'd like a motion to close.
Motion to close public?
May I have a motion to?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept ordinance 2442.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
Ordinance 24-43, ordinance authorizing traffic enforcement upon real property located at 96 Industrial Court in accordance with the request of the property owner. May I open for public comment? May I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to accept 2443?
Motion to adopt ordinance 2443.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
There are no introduction of ordinance at this time, so I am going to call for adjournment of the meeting, but I did want to say something on a personal basis. And I know that this is an ongoing investigation with the Kubel family. I just left that meeting and I felt a bit of heartache for his parents, and I sat here and I did not say anything, and I kicked myself in my butt. But I just felt that if they are going through what they say they are going through, I hope that when we complete this investigation, that if there is found someone who has done what they're saying that someone has done, then I do hope that we take that and really make an example that that is not acceptable in this township or in this police department. So I just felt I personally needed to say that, no one should have to hear anything about their child that their child doesn't want them to know about if it doesn't come out of their mouth. And that's just Teresa Berger. So at that point, I will say that the next meeting is November 12th. Regular at 7, executive at 6. May I have a motion to end the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.